I want to have one accessible at any time. So that's just me. But like my thought on it is that I don't want to ever see a giant pump and not be able to take advantage of it, if that makes any sense. Now,
Yeah,
I'm okay with
that
leaving
is
some. I'm okay with leaving some in there of yield that I've earned on it, and not messing with that. I guess it's kind of like the sacrifice that I pay for having access to one at any time, but still earning. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
yeah, it
for
makes sense
me,
what you're saying. But
sorry.
see what I'm saying is like, is there a benefit in the amount of yield you'll get? So it's like an original day one stake that keeps rolling over that you add to. So like I initially say my day one I put in, I'm just using random numbers here. So say I put in like 10,000 and that made me a whale. So it kicked out for 365 days before I could end stake. And say I kept it for 150 days and then I added another 1,000 Icosa to it. So it kicks it out another 365 days. Like, do you get more yield off those initial stakes, like a better rate of return than one that's starting today?
I believe so, personally. So if you can hold on to that initial stake that you had there for the longest. So for me, my big Icosa stake, I'm going to keep up until I'm ready to pay out. But my smaller Hedron stakes, which generate yield that I can cash out, I'm putting that yield of Icosa into new Icosa stakes. That's how I'm doing it personally.
So how was the yield tonight, boys and girls, if there's any in the room?
That's you, Mike. We came here for you.
Mike left the party.
He just came in and yelled at me and left.
Yeah, but like in terms of like what you were saying, right? Like the, obviously yield is dynamic, but let's just assume yield is constant, just for the argument's sake, right? Like so you earn 10 Icosa per point per day or something, right? So like in that sense, an old stake or a new stake would earn the same. But when you end the stake and then restart, points will be harder to obtain because the share rate has increased since you started the stake. So when you stop and start again, you've got a more expensive point rate, if that makes sense. It costs.
That's what I'm wondering about right there. Yeah, man.
So
it is a
the
benefit.
way you can work out. Sorry. Like I was just gonna say, there's a way you could work out like, is it more beneficial to hold it? And I'm talking about beneficial, not particularly to you or to but just in terms of gaining the most share of the pool, having the biggest share of the inflation. And so there's a way to work out which is better, to either hold it or to restake. And that's just to basically take the amount of, like, let's say you've just come out of jail, you've just done your 90 days. So, you're out of your minimum and you can say, right, today I have principal and yield. You add the principal and yield together, divided by the hex share rate, and that's the hex share rate without the decimal point. So add a zero to it. So if it's 25,000, 250,000. So principal plus yield divided by the share rate, and then times that by 1,000,000,000. And the result of that equation would be how many points you could get if you restaked. So if that number of points is bigger than the amount of points your stake currently has, the answer is it's better to end the stake and put everything back into the new stake. And that's assuming you're going to put all of the yield back in, because then the yield is earning yield, if you like. The yield's working for you instead of being constant, being stagnant. And this is assuming the yield is constant, because obviously yield is dynamic. So if the answer to that equation was lower than the current points you have, then you'd be more beneficial just keeping your share of the pool that you have now, because it's essentially going to you're going to restart the stake otherwise and have a smaller share of the pie, you know? So that's the easy way to work it out.
I appreciate that information very much. This is something that I've been wondering about for the last few days. But yeah, that's awesome. Great information. Thank you.
And it's like, it's almost an impossible math problem, right? Because like, if you're earning a lot of Hedron on that stake too, what if that Hedron is performing well? What if there's auctions that you want to take advantage of using that Hedron that's sitting there for you? You know, there's so many like factors, right? So it's really individual, which is what I like about it.
Yeah, hey Jawa, are you the guy that's doing all the imaging for the Watsas and all that, like all the pictures, or like you're involved with that? And if
It's
so,
all me. I did
Oh, it's all you?
100% of all of them. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm part of it. Yeah.
How's that going?
It's going good. We're just got a hiccup with OpenSea, and when I say we, I mean just Alex. Alex, he's got all the art. All right, so like, it's just a matter of him figuring that out.
That's cool. All the art's done though. That's cool. Very nice.
Yeah, it's really shitty art too. I'm hoping it's gonna make people burn like a motherfucker.
You're full of shit. I saw one of the images already, and I screenshotted it, and it's pretty sweet.
Full disclaimer: there probably are ones that people don't like. So, but that's all planned. I mean, we want people to burn these things, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyways, I'm gonna jump off. All right, guys. Everybody have a good night. Peace out.
Good night, bro.
See you, dude. Well, my general understanding of what this is that the longer you stay within your own pool from the day one that you started, that's where you're going to gain the most. You know, for me, I've got small Hedron stakes that build small amounts of Icosa. I'll end those stakes and put that Icosa in new wallets. And those wallets I'll let build for who knows how long, until I'm ready to cash out, even until after those minimum stake days end. You know, until I'm ready to, take my bag. That's how I played this game anyway.
Yeah, and like obviously there's no right or wrong answer in terms of like your personal, like the way you want to do it, or the next guy wants to do it. But obviously in terms of the question, I think he was just saying, hey, what's the best way to gain the biggest share of the pool, so to speak, right? So for example, with those Icosa stakes you have, because this equation I'm talking about is not possible to work out with a Hedron stake, because you're yielding a different asset. So there's potential opportunity cost if you make a play and the market goes against you. But with Icosa, since you're yielding the same asset, Hedron aside now, because you also earn Hedron as a bonus, you can kind of say, well, hey, if I was to end my stake after my 90-day period, for example, and then add both principal and yield together and make a new stake with all of it, could I get more points? And if the answer is yes, it means going forward, you'd earn more yield than if you'd have just kept it active. So I think, that's all I was getting at in terms of just, strategically the best way to gain a bigger share of the pool. But then, like Jawa said, he wants to have the opportunity to be able to pull the trigger if and when he wants to. So this isn't necessarily the best play in terms of like the investment. This is just like, if you have 10 stakes, maybe compound two of them because you want two of them to have the biggest possible share of the pool that they can have. And there's also the case that at some point the share rate ratchets up so much that compounding is not possible. You'd actually get a worse rate by ending and starting again. And this is why it's important to do the math before ending to see what's kind of most cost effective, if you like, in terms of the rate of points. So yeah, that's kind of what I was explaining, and not so much, this is necessarily the right way to do it, because obviously everybody's investment's different, everybody's appetite's different, etc.
Yeah, dude, I agree, dude. I think at the end of the day, where we see the market going, everyone has a date or a price that they want to cash out at. And no one wants to lock themselves into a point where, right, I'm going to stake this and I'm at a set amount of days. And then they're like, oh shit, I'm holding the bag. No one wants to be in that position. So what I think's best potentially for me is to let these stakes roll to a point where you build enough wallets where your minimum stake days has ended, so you can cash out at any point. That's what I think.
Yeah, and like, yeah, that's as good as plan as any, because only you know what's good for you, and like, you might have X amount of hex stakes that are already 5555, for example. So you've already got a long-term bag, you've already got skin in the game, you're already locked up for a long time. So you want to have the ability to do what you will with Icosa, and that's as good a play as any, I guess. Does anyone know what the yield is yet? Has anybody checked, or is it the first transaction not happened yet?
I can't check because I'm driving, unfortunately. And it's really interesting because, um, for the first year and maybe couple years, it's going to be somewhat predictable when these, large events happen and possible Icosa inflation. Um, but eventually, I think it's going to be so random, like with different days, people's different stakes ending and everything that um, it won't be predictable at all, you know, unless you're like some mastermind, track all these large wallets and stuff. But yeah,
Looks like just over 16 billion was burned, 255 million.
So for me personally, my Icosa stakes are generating a lot more yield than my hex stakes are currently. This is why I think the Icosa staking system is incredibly beneficial. What we gain out of it is incredible. And not to put anything down about the hex staking system, but with the Icosa staking system, the longer you stay in it, the more yield you get. So just the longer you hold and the bigger your share of the pool is, that's where you generate the cash at the end of the day. And what I'll say is what the dude from Hex Model is doing is incredible. Like, where else can you go to any other crypto and see charts statistics, wallets, like you can from Hex model. It's incredible. I think it's very transparent, and I appreciate that about the project. So,
yeah,
I really like it.
Yeah, the yield came in 0.39%.
Oh, that's a pretty good one then. That's not too bad.
No, it's a good
There
problem to
he
have
is.
for sure.
Somebody just burn another watt at 1 billion points.
Oh, really? Ooh. Dude, that's a lot, man. Like, dude, I mean, like, I mean, it was 1,000 originally, but like, those things were chunky, man. $2,000.
I wonder what they're burning them for. Might have to go look.
Well,
to make my watts more valuable.
yeah, it makes your watts more valuable, but if they have made profit on their what you would call trade, then they are just taking profit. That's just what it is. They're just taking profit on their trade.
There's so many other better ways to take profits. But whatever, make my position stronger.
I think
think
what
you would have
Kismet
waited.
was saying, I think what Kismet was saying is like you could track that wallet and see if they're getting into another coin or something like that. Is that what you meant, Kismet?
Yeah, I was just seeing people who burn their watts just to get Zen.
Ugh.
Seriously, Zen?
Yeah, it's a curious endeavor, but maybe they know something.
I think he would have
Oh,
waited another
but
24
again,
hours. There's gonna be like, I don't know, a 1,200 T-share fucking HSI going tonight, and like tomorrow's gonna be gorgeous. One more day could yield them a little bit more.
yeah, but for sure, yeah, but building Zen wallets, I can see where it can be beneficial if you're building 2 a day for 365 days. For the next 6 months. But
Yeah, the guy
yeah.
who earned 50 points the other day traded the majority of it for Zen. So that's like 50 grand, dude. Worth of the initial investment, of course.
At this point in time as well, who knows where it'll be in 6 months. But looking at the chart, it's a little bit bleak. Yeah, it doesn't look good, let's be honest.
Imagine spending 50 grand on Zen right now and then it losing 2 zeros. And you go from a $50,000 investment to a fucking $500. Fuck that, dude.
Thing is, again, I'm not here to shit on any coin. Like, we're an Icosa group. I'm not here to shit on Zen at all, but I invest in Zen. I've done some, I've invested in Zen where I built up, I'm yielding Zen. The only reason it makes sense is to do the longest stake for me, the gas fees at this point, you've got to do the longest stake for multiple days in a row. So do 10 days in a row, burn off that fucking gas, and just let it ride.
Yeah, it's cool though. It's a free market. Anyone can do what they want. There's just so much in the pipeline for Icosa, You got art. You get the opportunity to get a double. when Pulse Chain launches. I just hope that people who make decisions, they keep these things into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people, all they care about is ROI, and of course that's important, of course, but not very. I mean, who knows? Maybe they do know something we don't know, but I know something that other people don't know. I'm gonna keep that tight though.
You know when Pulse Chain launches? Why are you keeping this from us, bro?
No, I don't have any information when it comes to that. I wish. I just worked outside today for about 12 hours in negative 10-degree weather. I wish I fucking knew when Pulse Chain was launching. Trust me, I'd probably quit my job today if I knew for a fact, but I don't.
Hey, Joa, in consideration that you know something that none of us do, would you say that it's advisable to buy some Watsas right now?
I mean, I'm pretty bullish on Watsas. I think that's the best play possible, to be honest with you.
For anyone who get curious, just make sure you verify the contract because there's fake ones out there. Last time I checked, at least.
Yeah, but just by the way, I registered watsas.com and it points straight to the correct OpenSea page. You can double check it and verify.
I genuinely like to hear from anyone who's bought a Watsa on OpenSea. Hear how their experience has been and whether it's gone into their wallet and they know that they're safe and cool. Because that would help with my assurance in buying one too.
Yeah, absolutely safe as long as you go to the right page. And as I said, you can just type in watsas.com and it will take you to the correct page.
Have you bought one yourself off of OpenSea?
Yeah, I've bought a few.
If you just type in exclamation address in the chat in here, it'll also show the Watsa link.
Excuse you.
Oh yeah, sorry, I got my mic on and I got a bad chest infection. Apologies to everybody.
Another topic I'd like to talk about is the Hedron ceiling price as to where it is on Hex model. It says it's like 26x or something along those lines. So it doesn't have 20 times to grow before it, is where it should be, or what? I'm just wondering where those stats should lie. I don't know if you guys are familiar with hex.com or hex model, sorry, hex model. It's an interesting website, which I think you all should check out.
Yeah, there's another website you should check out, which is hexfire.io. In fact, the gentleman who set it up, he was in here a couple of minutes ago. He's called Crispy. So you can ask him any questions you like.
Sorry, can you repeat that so I can search it up?
Hexfire.io.
Hey, DJ. I'm still here. I'm listening.
Oh, escape specialist, meet Crispy. He's the gentleman you need to talk to.
Hey, dude.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Just hanging out. Before I joined this space, it was quite dead. I just like to talk about Icosa, Hedron, and the general space of crypto right now. I think it's really interesting.
Nice. So we're all here for, isn't it? The meeting of the minds. Kind of figure out what's going on.
So, this website you built, tell me about it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, sure. Hey, in a thumbnail, it's primarily hex focused, not I do some work with Hedron and Icosa there, but it's primarily hex focused, right? And the origins really come from, me going through 2 years of doing everything by hand, even though I know better, and the tools becoming available and the data becoming available, that I finally grabbed the data and started doing it in a way that other people could access it and do the same things I'm doing. So that's probably not a great explanation, but that's my start. So like for instance, I can go in and you can go in by your wallet addresses and drop them in and see all of your hex stakes. If you have HSIs, you can use your HSI addresses. If you don't have the HSI addresses, you just have the owner address, you can drop the owner address in. And I keep track of, through the data, we keep track of everything that's happened in the system. And that's because it's transparent, right? I mean, it's our data. I mean, if you're participating in the contract, it's your data. And it is all available. And so we're able to see what the current state of stakes are, who's ended, which ones have ended, which ones started, when they started, T shares, blah, 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 all that stuff. And then, be able to do maybe some things that are useful, like, estimate what the payouts will be in the future.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff. Being able to, for the, again, never a recommendation to emergency end stake, but if somebody really needs to emergency end stake, you can go use the emergency end stake calculator, and it'll tell you what what you'll probably get back for hex. There's quite a bit. There's quite a bit there. It's 60 pages of analytics and data. And I've tried to curate it a little bit into sections that make sense, but it's quite detailed. But yeah, there's a lot of different things in there you can dig into.
Well, thank you for that explanation. I'll check it out.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, if you have any questions, just go ahead and shoot them over to me. I can try to answer them. Since you said Hedron Icosa is your focus, things that are there that I find pretty useful to me as a hex holder, right? So if I go into my stakes there, I can get a quick balance of what I can mint right now of all the Hedron, right? And so that's useful to me, so I can do that. And I can go in and I'm looking at all not ended addresses. Let me check this. So at the moment, there's 28 almost 29 trillion Hedron that could be minted right at this moment.
Through
Give or take.
all hex stakers.
Yeah, right. Which is that's where primarily that's where Hedron comes from. I mean, no new Hedron gets created, right? So it only gets distributed as yield to the Icosa stakes through burns. So I don't think any new Hedron is created when that happens. I guess we'd have to figure out. My impression is I didn't go verify this. I don't remember it. And when somebody does a loan, I don't think that new Hedron is actually. Well, I guess it is actually created because it's a loan off of what the future minting will be for Hedron. Anyways, I digress. So you can do that. You can also check and see, with a lot of these stats, you can check and see, whether or not HSIs are doing one thing and native stakes are doing another, because we can indicate that. And then on the, I tried not to duplicate all the stuff that the guys have done and look into Hedron, Stake Hedron today, I think is another one. Is that another one? Or even the one you mentioned. I try not to duplicate all that stuff because those guys are in way deep. But I have my own version of a couple things, like the ceiling prices. This one's probably worth showing you on screen. Let's see where I'm at. Let's see if I got this up on my screen that I can show it. Yeah, okay. I was actually working on some transaction data right now. I don't know if you can see a screen if I share it, though, so I should ask you. If I share this out, will you see the screen or no?
Were you showing it, Crispy? Are you showing it on the... Oh, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah. All right. See, so this is I'm just give you a nickel tour. Probably most important thing for those of us in this ecosystem is knowing T-share rates and when they're going to change. And so this is a calculated new T-share rate based on the current situation in Hex and where we expect it to go. Got kind of a bet coming up here where we're probably going to see a 700 Hex increase in about a month, or about 18 days, right? Maybe right around the 16th, 17th of February. So that'll be a hefty little jump. But that's dependent on the staker actually ending the stake. So from an Icosa perspective in particular, right, if your timing is right, you want to get a stake in before it jumps. Right. And I say timing is because sometimes you can't control when the stake's ending, right? But you could do it far enough in advance if you really want to get crazy and try to, do small enough stakes to fall into windows that would be before the big advances. And certainly earlier is always better, right? I have this tab here for Hedron Icosa. If you go to this screen right now, this is from earlier today when I loaded this. There's a lot more actually listed on the left-hand side. The option's still the same for Hedron Icosa. If we go into here, what you're going to see, and this was funny, I made a video about it. You're going to see these ceiling prices. But with the added twist that I added that new share rate prediction into it. So it's not just the flat, hey, this is what the share rate is. This is how I see it increasing if the share rate goes up. So with the Icosa today, 97 cents, end of 25, 328, looking at the low number. So yeah, it's like a 3x in 2 years at the current hex price. That's pretty interesting. And you can kind of vary the time frames. You really want to go out and get crazy. You can go all the way out and see where it goes, and it'll be some incredibly higher number, based on how the contract works. Maybe in 15 years, Icosa is somewhere between $26 and $140. And again, that's at the current price. So if I bring this back down, so these are things, actually for some people, it's pretty damn bullish to see this, right? So I think it's pretty bullish to see that the Icosa price mathematically, the ceiling will go up. It's not a price prediction because people will do something different. So then on the right-hand side, you can put in a price in here for Hex and just say Hex at $1. It was listed at $10 a moment ago. So it gets as close to $1 as it can. And it just shows us what the Icosa price would be at $1 right now. It would be a $35 Icosa. $35, $36 ceiling, So if you really wanted to play around with that and go to max, that's where the $10 was before. It's like a $360 ceiling price for Icosa at a $10 hex price. Make sense?
Okay, I've got a question. So the ceiling price has to include buying pressure of people buying the coin, obviously. So the ceiling price is really just if buying pressure reaches that point, there's a protocol where if it gets to that point, someone would sell a HSI and make money off of their hex and sell the Icosa. Is that right?
Well, the ceiling price really is a mathematical price. It's a mathematical equation. That's why I say it's not a price prediction. Now, for quite a while, Icosa did sit right on its ceiling price, right? But yes, I think you've deduced correctly that because that also becomes an arb point where you could arbitrage between tokens, that somebody would probably sell it down, so it won't go any higher than the ceiling price, and that's why they call it the ceiling price.
Because they could sell a HSI for more than they bought it for. They could sell the Icosa for more than they bought the stake for, if that makes sense.
Yep, exactly. Well, and that's why so many people are really delighted to get discounts on the auctions, right? Because if it's discounted enough, they can actually get more Icosa back than they could buy on the open market with the same same value. So to answer,
I really appreciate you explaining that. I really do. Thank you.
Sure, there's a lot more people in here that can say this better than me, Matt. But yeah, you're very welcome. So yeah, that's why I say and so as far as what the market does, of course affect everything. But the only thing the market affects in terms of these prices is what is the hex price and what is the what is so the hex price and T share rate or share rate. Those are the only two things the market actually affect in terms of calculating ceilings, because they're kind of like theoretical numbers, right, of where something could go before there was an arbitrage. And of course, the market does affect how quickly the T-share rate increases, and it affects directly the price of hex. But within this, in terms of creating or estimating the ceilings, doesn't matter. What the current Icosa or Hedron price makes no difference. And I don't know that I'll be adding much more here, but we'll see what people might need or want as we go along. But this is a Hedron yield kind of a approach. to go look at all the stakes that are out there that could be minting Hedron or did mint Hedron, that type of stuff, just to get a better idea of the calcs. And I know there's some different ways of looking at it, but again, this might be a little outdated today. But so when I ran this, I can update it, but it'll just take a moment to reload here. But one of the ones I like to look at, I like to see how many people actually ended without minting. You know, kind of get a feeling for that. And so, if we really wanted to know, like yesterday, we could go in here and say, let me see. You know, as of an end date of yesterday, right? So it ended yesterday. That's when it actually ended. You know, how much was left on the table. So 1 billion Hedron was not minted. It just went away because those stakes ended for a variety of reasons. Probably some people don't care, some people care. Maybe the amounts were too low. Maybe they forgot, right? Whatever the case might be. So you can maybe pick up some, if you're looking to dig deeper, pick up some ideas here about what these wallets down here that ended yesterday might be thinking. And if I'm gonna look real quick at our filters. Huh. Yeah, so yesterday was pretty interesting, right? I mean, not that many. We had 249 ends of hex stakes yesterday. And it looks like only two of them, almost 247 out of 249 left Hedron on the table, maybe. It could have, my address is different, but anyway, same number, 1 billion. I guess I'd have to do a different measure to figure out how many didn't, because I see a lot of them went to zero. But you can see a lot of them.
That, but they didn't.
Yeah, but they didn't.
So
yeah.
they could have claimed it, but they didn't.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, 1 million is not really enough. And so, for value of the gas, right? But this one, I would have minted that one for sure. 337 million, 246 million.
Well, thank you for building this platform. I really appreciate it. It's nice for you to talk about it and lay this out for us.
Now, you playing with the HSI data at all, or I mean the auctions at all, or are you just getting in now to look at things?
I've lost out on the Watsas, but I am in the Icosa and Hedron staking.
Got it. Yeah. So I played around with the auctions a little bit. I found out, just like with eBay, I'm not a really good auction guy. But this is the auction panel that applies to it. And again, there's some better stats out there, exactly what's going on. But this is pretty straightforward. So again, you can go to, maybe the most current day that I have recorded in here. And it's definitely not that day. Let's go to the 31st here. All right, and you can, so I put my slider for auction ends all the way to today, to see what was going on. I did a lot of auctions. I mean, compared to some other days. So I just grabbed some stats, like exactly how many auctions were there, what the average per T-share was, blah, 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 particularly the discounts, So a negative discount on Icosa means they can't do that swap I was telling you about at this time. They could hold it and wait. But in total, if you were the winner of all these 28, your intention was to swap it, sell it for Icosa, you would have lost $6,000 from your bid, probably.
Hey, Crispy, quick question.
Yeah.
Can you on your site? And sorry, I'm in transit, so I can't look. My phone's not great for Hexfire, but Can you look for specific upcoming auctions with a, because they've all got like a particular ID number or whatever? Can you do that on this site?
Well, is the data available to me? Yes. Yes. I have not put it on this site, but I did that in my my spreadsheet tool. And the reason I do two different things is with this site, I can't update it more than about once every hour. This is a very large amount of data. And for the auction stuff, I want to know right now. Like I want to push a button and see what the current auction data is. But yeah, I mean, if there was a reason to go get it, I would get it for sure and put it here.
And so
if people thought that would be useful.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm just like being, I really appreciate what you've done with Hexify. It's amazing. I use it all the time, and also Sloth's website, which is talking about like upcoming, auctions. Like I think he lists like 5 where he like lists like the delta and saying like this is a good deal. But then I'm finding that even though it gives the information for that specific stake, like then taking that specific stake ID and then like hunting that particular auction down, for some reason I'm struggling with that.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, that's more of a reflection, I think, of trying to find it. All right, now if it's one that's already started, or is it one that's sitting waiting to be started?
I think he only lists ones that are already started. It's my gut feeling.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. So I find, so probably the best thing to do is get the liquidation ID and see if you can match it up on screen.
Right.
Or, but
No,
you know
exactly.
what I usually do is I'll go in there and look, and I think that's is it Hex model that lets you actually bid? Which one lets you bid? One of the tools lets you bid on them, right? Is it Stake Hedron today that lets you bid on auctions if you buy the service or something? I don't remember which one of them. But anyways, Hedron that today. So when I've done auctions, the way I've done is I waited till it was coming up to close to the time, and then I just go by T-share. Usually that was just the easiest way for me to figure out where the amount of hex staked, because it's right on the screen. Go find the auction that I want.
Anyway, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt. Carry on.
No, it's all in the same area. And I'll show you guys one more thing, maybe, then I'll be quiet. So the other thing you can do that I like about this is you can go down here to these. You want to see who's winning and what they're doing. So we've got the top 10 list by number of wins, so you can see the addresses that have won. So some people have done some pretty, that could be expanded. I just picked top 10, but some people have won some pretty good amounts. And then the addresses by the amount of T shares that they've won. So how many that is? So that guy there, that's a almost 7 dolphins worth of win. 4 dolphins in hex, 3 dolphins. So some pretty big numbers here. I don't think I've ever had. I know for sure it's not even like a question. I've never had this much Hedron ever at one time. So yeah, any one of those lines, that's a lot of Hedron. So these are kind of like the sharks and whales playing. And then you come in and look at the biggest bids, like the biggest bid that was made, and see the top 10 there. So for analytics and whatnot, all this information is available to go even deeper if it made sense. A lot of stuff is fun just to run down the rabbit hole, but it's not very useful in taking real actions.
Hey, Chris, we appreciate all your amazing insight, knowledge. I just have to say, though, that your microphone is whistly.
Oh, is whistling. Let's see if this machine over here is doing it. How about now?
Just put a sock on it, mate.
Yeah, I know.
That's a joke. But yeah, put a sock on it.
Or in it. Hey man, I got a gold microphone. Somebody said to me, they said, "Oh, you're doing these streaming." They bought me a new podcast kit, and I've got a golden microphone. I got to figure out how to connect it. You know, it's one of those ones on a stand that I can put in front of my face. Hey, did that clear up the sound at all?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It also might be me smoking. So I'm sitting here smoking a cigar. So.
What brand of
Sounds
cigar
good,
do you
Crispy.
suggest?
Sounds
Bro?
good.
Crispy, what brand of cigar do you suggest, brother?
Well, at the moment I'm smoking CAOs or chows, depends how you want to say them. But I really like LFDs, which are La Flor Dominica cigars. Are nice. Well, here's something I can show you too. Maybe find this interesting. This is what I was working on when you guys were talking. I'm trying to get. This is an actual design version. I don't know if you saw this or can see this. You see a white screen now that changed? It's got somewhat of a different look, or you still see the old screen?
Yeah, we see the new screen.
Yeah, so this has been a little fun. I've been trying to figure out for a long time how to go look at all transactions. So this is, and the problem is that I've got, so like everybody here who's watching, right, or listening, you'd like to have access to the data, right? There's some barriers to entry. Some of it's technology, some of it's access to data. But I nailed down getting the access to data part. And now the technology part is, how do you look at 4.4 million records at one time? And how do you do it so that all 30, 40 people of us can do it all at one time? So I'm trying to work on a newer set of tools that will go beyond what we've already done, be able to start doing some things that might help with organizing transactions and whatnot. But anyways, this is the very, very brief beginnings of something where you can actually come in. Let's say you really want to know about, a particular address and what they're doing. You can come in by a transaction hash, maybe, and you have it already, or you grab it and you drop it into a filter like this, and you put the transaction on, and the filter on. It'll show you all the transactions they ever did. Or now, some of you might recognize some of the data. So this is coming right out of Etherscan. And so the concept is maybe being able to do a trace on addresses, from start to finish. Might be useful for reporting purposes, that type of stuff. In the hex area, these are the only method IDs that get reported. So like I just pulled up all of the stake start IDs. So these are all the native stakes, or not native, all stakes that were ever created, minus the BTC free claim stakes, which would be another 30,000 or something. And that's because they're kind of built into the code. And if you wanted like a staker, you can go grab their address. And you could actually come up here. If I had it on the search on, you could actually drop it into the search bar, but you'd be able to go grab one and it would show you all their transactions. So a little bit of behind the scenes type stuff. What else could I show you? Oh, yeah, I'll probably, I got to go on with Maddie in about a half an hour or so. But this is going to be one that'll be This is probably one that's we'll end up talking about. I was looking at people and their behaviors. It takes a little bit of analysis, and we're trying to nail it down. We're able to put together. Maybe we'll be able to do something like this for Hedron at some point. Like I said, there's a lot of data out there that has to be assembled. But what I was able to do is put together like a tracking of addresses, when they made their stakes, and what kind of positions they took. So this is by T-share, and these are the dolphins and hex. It kind of shows you over the last 3 years how they, how they evolved. More fun to look at than probably super useful. But we can pause it or whatever, and then you see the different addresses that are involved. But it shows how some of them went up and down during different time frames, that type of stuff. So a little fun little chart. And this guy, I'll be a spoiler, 17C5 is still one of the leading dolphins out there. So,
hey, Crispy, good to hear that you're going on stream tonight. Just a quick one. I wonder, and I can't recall whether you and Maddie ever talked about that which Alex was tweeting about today in regards to communists and maybe some kind of new interaction there. Have you got any take on that, or is that something that you guys may touch on later?
Oh, I'll have to go find out. Is the idea that we might be able to claim? Is that the idea?
I'm a little bit lost. I'm sure there's somebody much more technically understanding than me that's been tracking what happened today. But basically, it sounded like Alex was suggesting some kind of interaction between burning communist token and using HSIs or something. It's quite a big development. And since the price of communists has gone up pretty big as well today.
Oh, cool. Well, I'd like to hear that. Well, from my side, because I have the native 6. I'll have to go look and see what that interaction was, and we can talk about it maybe. Yeah. So I work pretty closely with Kodiak, and I did attempt to connect him and Alex together early in that process. The reason I work with Kodiak is he's the guy who I believe has founded COM. Is because he's been very instrumental in helping get things like the graph up and running, which is a reporting of data, and he's been very involved in that process. And so I've worked with him a little bit, and I think that what he's trying to do is provide incentive for people to stake X big and long, and I think there was my understanding is, and I may get it wrong, is there was some sort of technical barrier to being able to prove that you were the person who actually started a stake that was now owned or something. I don't know. I probably got the words all screwed up. But yeah, that's good to hear. I'd like to hear that because I think it would open up another group of people. So
Yeah,
I'll go research that.
Yeah, go do that. Have you did you discuss communists before? Would that be a new thing if you did start talking about it?
I brought it up in one of the meetings, or not meetings, one of the shows a few weeks ago. Just that it had launched, but I haven't talked to him about it at all.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I don't know if anybody else in this chat is more able to just explain what their take is on it. But yeah, go do some research, bud.
Yeah, so like essentially it's like very rough, brief rundown. So imagine you can have this AA style bucket every day of something called capitalist, and you can burn communist for the capitalist.
That's funny. I like that. I like that already. It's because I love the irony.
Sure. But there'll be like a time delay. The bigger the bucket, the longer it will take to mint that bucket. So it won't exactly be like the Hex AA. But then the HSIs come into it because you can essentially use a HSI to virtual mint capitalist. So it will be like or sorry, virtual burn communist. So had the HSIs have been able to mint communist, then the amount they'd have otherwise been able to mint will be like virtual deposited into this AA style thing. So then you can mint your capitalist coin, if that makes sense. So you can burn communist or virtual burn communist with a HSI. So it's just a way to include HSIs kind of thing. And then there's some other features where, you know, and this might not be a thing, it's just something Alex is spitballing. You can essentially deposit, you can deposit a HSI into the contract, which essentially allows other people to end that HSI and pay the fee for you. And in return, they get some of the hex. You can set the fee at whatever you want, let's say 20%. So they get 20% of your hex for paying the ETH gas fee to end it. So like a bunch of people can just all put their HSIs in. Someone else can end them all and take some of that kind of fee. And then 90% of that fee will go to that person that ended it. 10% of that fee will go to the protocol. So it would be 1% essentially of the total, you know, of the total hex amount. And then point 4 is HSI sitting in the company's contract and 24%. Yeah, so the HSI sitting in the contract will earn 25% of the the communist that's put into the bucket each day if the HSI is ever removed, blah, blah, blah. And then the last thing, users can stake capitalist to earn the other 25% of communist. So essentially 50% of the communist goes into the buckets, 25% goes to stakers, the other 25% goes to, but yeah, that's the gist of it roughly. I've just read it once. I'm just trying to reread it again. But yeah, the main
Is
thing
it all on Twitter?
It's all on. It's actually in the pinned messages in Icosa.
Oh, okay.
But the gist is, you know, it's like, yeah, kind of a way to include HSIs in some way to communist, burn some communist, and also have a thing where you can essentially not really pool HSIs, but have HSIs put into the contract and have someone else end them in exchange for some of your hex. Kind of like a quasi HSI maxi kind of vibe, I guess, you know. So it's a bit of use case for HSIs in multiple ways, and I guess it's a little kiddie shot for communists to give it a little rocket, you know.
Just throwing it out there, and it's not like I've got any real connection to communists, but I think you're calling it communist. Maybe that's a joke, but I believe it's called communist.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think
yeah.
Com works better. com, because communist is is it Latin for community, right? Isn't that what it is?
I see. Yeah. And I think,
Yeah.
it's just because of the play on the capitalist. I'm just capitalist communist, but yeah. Thanks for correcting me on that.
It is funny though that Alex is calling that potential capitalist. That's amazing.
Well, yeah, I get the irony of that. That's kind of funny. Hey, you got to have a sense of humor.
So here's what's cool. Capitalist, because it's not actually capitalist, it's capitalist.
Yeah.
In Latin means either chief or principal. But
What's
not
the
principal
Greek?
as in...
What's the Greek?
I don't know. But just to confirm before I look at the Greek, it's principal with an A, so as in stake principal.
Got it.
Capitalist Greek.
Pretty funny.
But my gut feeling is, I mean, Alex obviously has given it quite some thought, and even though it's like obviously no expectations of work from others and stuff, it adds a lot of credence to communists. You know, like if Alex is like seriously considering this, it's like, okay, this token is obviously A, very interesting to Alex, and B, you know, like Chris, we were saying, done by a guy that the more savvy-minded developer types in our community, you know, appreciate and like. It's, you know, it's made me glad that I jumped in and started whatever I did with communists, with like claiming against your stakes and stuff when it first came out. I did that, and I suggest everybody else should consider that too. If Alex is really going to build something additional to that you know, communist ecosphere, then that's going to be really bullish for that whole domain.
So I've got a genuine question about Icosa and Hedron. Anyone on this talk right now, do you think it'll be listed on an exchange? That's just a question I've got. All right, there's silence there, but I want to hear, what do you think if Hedron gets listed on Binance for interest? For you know, what if Hedron gets listed on Binance? What if Icosa gets listed on Binance or a similar exchange?
Well, let me take a different tact and go a different direction. You know, with the state of DeFi the way it is changing, and fiat on-ramping and off-ramping in multiple areas, I wonder if the exchanges are going the way, you know, central exchanges are going to go the way somewhat of, you know, record companies or movie theaters or some other types of things that have been outpaced by tech, just in general, which kind of brings you back to why would you, is there even a reason to get them put onto those exchanges? I get the point though, because we quite often relate whether or not something gets put on exchange with value, a centralized exchange. But we clearly can trade and swap decentralized today and get to tokens or coins that can be sent to a centralized exchange. Now, the exchange has incentive to do it, you know, because the exchange, if they put it on and if there's enough volume, they can make money off of the swaps, which is really their business model, right? And advertising. Yeah, transaction fees and advertising. Those are the two big ones. Yeah. I would think you'll see in general, you know, with these types of tokens, probably slow to no listing. You know, just because they typically charge a fee on top of that. Who's going to pay the millions of dollars, you know, to do that? Why would you even? Yeah, I guess we'd have to wait and see. So I'm probably not the right guy to answer, but my observation is I think more and more, I think sexes are going to be hurt more and more over time, but because time will tell.
It's a good comparison you made to the record companies, because back in the day, you had a situation where when Spotify came out, record companies were already hurt by, like, look at MTV, right? Like, the record companies paid for all the videos to be made because it was their artist, and they made no money. MTV made all the money. So when Spotify came out, the record label said, hey, we're not going to give you the catalog unless you give us a piece of Spotify. So they're shareholders in Spotify. And so it's interesting that you said that, because it's like, you might see these exchanges build like a quasi kind of decentralized, kind of centralized AMM to test the waters, make some money, and then just kind of jump on the bandwagon of Uniswap in the future. And I'd never really thought of that, to be honest. That's a great observation, because who knows if it'll happen, but it would kind of make sense. If they think that's the way it's going, then surely they're just going to jump on it because they want to make that money off the spread, like, you know, off the volume. But one thing's interesting is during the Pulse chain sacrifice, Binance listed Pulse like the sacrifice price, which was so crazy and random. I don't know why they did it. And it was just like a listing. They just said, hey, here's Pulse, here's the price of the, like, you couldn't buy it obviously because it's not out, but But that was interesting to me, the fact that they had it there. It's like they recognized, hey, obviously initially it was the Binance Smart Chain code base fork. And it was like hey, we're paying attention. We know this is coming out. So, who knows if it'll be listed there, but they have a page. I don't know if it's still up, but Pulse was there. And the kind of sacrifice rate was there, like the rate of one coin at sacrifice price. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Ian.
No, you're good. I agree with everything you said. I didn't know that about Binance. Fascinating. Just a question to Crispy there. You mentioned about there being charged a fee, and I just wanted to kind of, I believe what you're talking about, and Richard Hart has talked about it before. It's like if your token wants to be listed on some of these centralized exchanges, you literally have to pay them to do that. Is that what you meant by a fee?
Yeah, that's my understanding. I mean, I haven't talked to anybody. I haven't received any offers. I'm not involved in any of that stuff. But yeah, that's my understanding from reading the old internet. Is that generally they require you to put some amount of tokens in or pay some amount of money.
Yeah, and agreed. And RH always said he'd never do that. And obviously, as we know, Alex is a big admirer of RH and what he's done with Hex without needing centralized exchanges and just being like pure DeFi. And so, yeah, I'd be surprised. I don't know the guy, but I feel like it's going to stay on DeFi until potentially exchanges are like, we need this token because look at all of the trades that are happening and look how famous it is, and we just want it now, as opposed to like you say, demanding somebody to pay to actually list it.
All right, guys. So I've got a question. How long is it until CZ, the owner of Binance, creates a decentralized exchange, a little bit like what Uniswap is? Is it going to be that long where you own your keys? Yes, but the swap is owned by him. He created that platform. Is that potentially going to happen? I think so. It could happen because he owns a big share of the market of what happens in cryptocurrencies. I think he's got a lot of influence on the space.
Yeah, like Crispy's insight then, like that's one of the best things I've heard. I think that's a great insight, I think, to say, hey, and like look at Apple, right? Like to even further what you were saying, like Apple created the market for selling MP3s on iTunes, and then Spotify, this rapid, this disruptive innovator came in and just shook everything up and took all of the market share and said, hey, come over here and stream. So what did Apple do? They pivoted. Okay, forget MP3s. Let's do Apple Music. Let's just copy Spotify and take back market share because we created this market and they just steam trained in. And so like same here, like decentralized exchanges are making all the money. Uniswap, which is arguably top 3 greatest innovations in crypto after crypto itself, comes in, shakes things up. It's like, well, over time, as people start to want decentralization more and more, they just pivot in an attempt to claw back market share of that volume, which is the that's what they're in business for. And maybe 5-10 years down the line, we see this switch. Like that's what Crispy just said, bro. That's in my opinion, like that's some great insight right there. Like I just never thought of it like that. Because why is it any different to a normal business model, to the things we've already seen, to the Facebooks of MySpace, to the Spotify's of like music and
The record companies.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that's great, man.
All I'm saying is this is an interesting thought. Why isn't the biggest people in the space looking at what the new trend is and moving into that? it's a thought to think about. You know, obviously Richard is an innovator in the space, and he's obviously going decentralized. But the biggest people like Coinbase, Binance, some of the others, Kraken or whatever, maybe they shall move into the space before we know it. It might happen. It's just a thought.
Yeah, I think, especially now that you've got decentralized things like DMX, famous, so people can long, short, leverage trade, etc. Yeah, I think decentralized exchanges could easily go down that route.
I just want to thank everyone for this space tonight. It's been incredible. I'm gonna leave you guys. So thank you, chat. Good night.
We'll see you later, buddy. I was saying something funny on mute, but I'll see you another time.
Good night, bro.
All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. I gotta go swap over to this show.
See you, Crispy, bro.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions, man, just pop me a IM or DM.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
Thanks, dude. Good night.
Good night, man.